video is about introducing this ball rig that we have. Winnie created this amazing rig for the ball, which is easy to use. I'm going to show you how each of these controls work. So first things first, after you opened up the scene, you want to create a new project and save this scene. So I'm going to go to project window and I'm going to hit new. And I'm gonna set it to be in the Maya project, and I'm gonna give it a name. Hit accept. I'm gonna go find that project, hit set, and now it's all set. I'm gonna save this scene in the assets folder of the project that I've set, just like that. And then I'm gonna save this again because I don't want to work on the asset, right? So I'm gonna go to scenes folder and just save this as my first test. Okay, so let's see what does this ball rig can do for us. Actually, lots of things. So the first thing would be you don't have to work with outliner when you're doing animations. So just close that because you don't want to accidentally select something and animate something that you're not supposed to do that, okay? So you just close the outliner. Instead, all you need to work with mostly is in channel box, okay? So you have the channel box open. If it's not open by default, you can just open it by going to this icon here. All of the controls for this ball is in this circle that you can see here, right? So this is a rig for this ball, and what it means is that, like, if it was like a sphere, what would you see here? Just translate, rotate, and then probably scale and visibility, and that would be all, and it would be all in the mesh of this character. But now you can see that it has this control that has some other attributes to it. So let's just go through them one by one, see what they do. So the first three are familiar for you. These are translate X, Y, Z, which you know you can use to just move objects around, right? The other one would be rotation. So remember that this one might be a little confusing at first. So if you want to make the ball roll, you shouldn't use this because, as you can see, the pivot point for rotation of the ball is at the bottom. So it does this and this. It's kind of like it's looking up and down, or just like this. What? So don't use rotation for roll, okay? So these are kind of familiar. Let's just, and this one is the size of the ball. You don't want to touch that. You're only working with one ball, so it's not that important. This is kind of a cool thing. Okay, so this is forward and backward roll. What does it mean? Let's just set some keyframes to see what it does. So I'm just going to set keyframe for translate Z on frame 1, and then on frame 40, just going to change the value. One of the ways that you can change the value for each of these attributes is if you select this side while it's showing like this, you're going to hover your mouse in this screen, not grabbing these handles or anything like that, the empty area of the screen. Then middle mouse click and drag. Now you can see that the value is changing. That would be one cool way. Instead of going in and type the values or doing stuff like that, you can do this. Okay, this is helpful especially for the values that they're not going to show any of these handles, right? Because these are custom values. They're not by default in the attributes of any object. These are the attributes that Winnie designed while he was creating this rig. So they're not going to have any indication like manipulator that you can grab. So this clicking and dragging thing would be helpful in these cases. Okay, so you just click here, not here, because this is changing the value here. And then hover your mouse over the empty area and just middle click and just holding down the middle mouse button and just dragging, the one that you scroll with, right? I'm just clicking that one. So on frame 40, I'm just gonna set this value to be a key. So now I have this ball kind of sliding, right? What if I want the ball to slide and roll? So there's a cool feature that Winnie designed for this rig, and it's that if you put the same value that you have for translate Z into the forward back roll, then it's gonna just roll without sliding, which is pretty neat. So I'm gonna do the same thing. So for frame 1, the translate Z value is 0, so I'm just gonna key this value here. It shows as 0. And I'm going to go to frame 40. I'm just going to copy and paste this value here. Control C, Control V, and right click, key selected. Okay. And as you can see, it rolls without sliding. This is really neat. And then here, if you want, this is kind of like the face of our ball. So if you want to have it just facing forward, you can just do this manually here. Like you can click here and then middle click drag so it's looking forward. And each time that you change the value, you need to key that value, right? Whoop. Okay, just like that. So we covered this one. This is forward back roll. That if you almost match this value to translate Z, you know that the ball is going to slide and also roll. Okay. So what is side to side roll? So what it does is that, clicking on this side, middle click, drag. So it's just rolling the ball in the X direction. Okay. So if I have the value of X to set at 0 in this frame, and I key this value at 0 in this frame, then go to frame 80, and then let's say I want it to move like this. Okay. I'm going to key this and copy this value and paste it to roll side to side roll. And key selected. Okay. You can see that it kind of does that too, right? It's beautiful. Okay, I'm just gonna match this to something like this. Come on. And then, not on this frame, on this frame. Okay, so key selected. Is it on 80? Okay. Pretty neat, right? Okay, so shouldn't it be the other way? Let's see if I put minus and then key selected. Let's see. Yeah, that's more like it. Do you see the difference? Hopefully you see the difference. When it rolls like this, the plus should be rolling this way. Okay, so yeah, I think for translate X and side to side roll, maybe you should just put a minus in there. You can experiment with that. Let's move on to the next thing, which is squash and stretch. So this, you're just gonna click here and middle click drag. You see that the ball kind of does this squash and stretch and preserves the volume. Isn't it nice? For sure it is. So while you have it like squashed like this, you get some other attributes as well to play around, some other controls. So by default, this show SS trans means show squash stretch transformation like handle. Okay, by default it's set to nope. Let's just click and change this to yep. As soon as you do that, you can see that this thing appears here. This is the handle that you can use to set the pivot for actually the center for squash and stretch. So you can see as I move this, something like this happens, right? You can also rotate this. Whoop, whoop. Okay. I'm not sure why it's doing this backward thing. This is the front of the character. So it's doing a little bit of a funky thing. I'm not sure what that is. So let's just leave it at that, and we get to it when you've got into any issues with this handle. Let's just set everything to 0 and go back to this handle here. So now squash and stretch. So we know that this is this. And if you don't want to work with this handle, you can just set it to be nope. Quick and say nope. So floor contact, what is this? Let's set the squash and stretch back to 0. No keyframes in that. So floor contact, when it's on, when you push the ball into the grid, it's just going to do this flap thingy. It's going to do this whoop. You don't want to do that, right? But it's good that it kind of understands the contact with the floor, right? It's a nice thing. Sometimes, actually most of the times, you might want to preserve the volume for that when it hits the ground. In that case, you can play around with this floor contact expand attribute that you have here. If you click on it and middle click and drag, you can see it kind of does this splashy thing, like, you know, flap on the ground. So you get to play around with that too. Also, the same way that you got like show SS trans, like show squash stretch transformation, you have show floor transformation as well. So you can just click and say yep, and then you get to play around, with this. That you can change the contact point, like, you know, just moving something like a floor or anything like that up. And the best application for that would be if you wanted like the ball to hit the wall in some direction. So you can change this, rotate this so it matches the angle of the wall that it's hitting into, right? As I said, it's an amazing rig. You never know until you work with other rigs and you don't get all these fancy attributes there. Believe me. Okay, so I'm just gonna for contact expand to 0, and just gonna say nope. For now, don't show that to me. Just gonna move it up so it's just sitting on the floor. Okay. You can just set this one to 0, so value of 0, and okay, I guess what I did was that before I set this value that I had turned on to 0, I just made it hidden, so that's what I get. Yes, you can see that it, you know, the floor contact was not set to 0. So that's why my ball wouldn't sit on the floor. So I'm just going to change this. Changed it back to 0, so it's the default value. Then now I can just say, don't show this. Oh, it's just this one. Nope. Okay. Show FC, expand, show floor contact, expand transformation. And this has to do with this one, with the expand thing. So you can play around with that too, you know how it works. I'm not going to go through with it. It's like these other two transformation things that if you have like expand for the floor happening, you can just change the center of that with this. Ball type, this is a fun one. So ball type, it's the ring, and then you can have like this plain ball, right? Makes me think the front of the character should be here, right? That's let's just do it at frame 0 so it doesn't go crazy. Plain. Okay, here we go. Now this is the front of the character. So you can have the ring ball or the plain ball, okay? And you can also change the color for the ball by having the ball selectable. By default it's nope, and you want to keep it as nope, okay? Because you don't want to select the mesh for the ball as you are animating, right? So you change it to yep only because you want to change the color of the ball. So you select this and then go to attribute editor, go to the final tab, and you can see here if you click on this thing next to the color, you get this color ramp thing happening. And now you get to change the color here. So you can just click on this icon and give it another color, something orange. Done. You can see that the color is changing, and the white to whatever thing that you want. Okay, sounds good. And then make sure you go back and then change this ball selectable to, okay, I keep right clicking this. Click this and say nope, so you accidentally don't click that. Okay, so remember from the beginning of the semester, each time that I said delete history, I was like, if you don't have a rigged character in the scene, you can just delete history. Now you have a rigged character in the scene, so if you delete history and everything, the rig is going to be broken. So it means that the connection between these curves and the ball it's going to be lost and nothing is going to work, and you have to import it again and do the animation again. Okay, so be mindful of that. Don't delete history on the whole scene. Okay, show help notes. Yep. And so to get the help notes, if you have this curve selected, you can go to the attribute editor. And here, these are some descriptions that we put here about the controls. So that's all. Hope you have fun animating with this beautiful rig.